All right, so we're on Response Exhibit 5. Tell me where you want to stop on this letter now that I'm on it.
And just when you get the body of the letter up on it. That's it right there.
Okay. Go ahead.
What Ms. McNeil wrote said the supervisor, it was my responsibility. Yes, it's my responsibility to check it, but the handbook says it's the employee's responsibility for its accuracy. And being accused of being fraudulent and falsifying documents is an overreach and just part of her attempts at retaliation because I refuted her sexual advances. And so she was looking for any and every little thing. As I stated earlier, with 17 different people's timesheets, they were somewhat complicated. It was not uncommon that there were mistakes found on a pay cycle. Like I said, pay cycle was every 2 weeks, and I don't think there was a pay cycle that went by where there wasn't an error. So this was something that we were working on, trying to correct it. The errors had been gotten down to a minimum. They had not been all alleviated. I mean, there is the human aspect. And to say that I did this fraudulently, that would imply it was on purpose. So, I mean, and this was not the only letter that I received. There were other letters that also were inaccurate and disputed. When it came to writing me up, I got 3 letters from her. One was her based on her misunderstanding of medical leave and sick time, which I disputed, and based on the handbook was accurate. She used all the rules for medical leave to write me up, and I was on sick time. I wasn't on medical leave. Medical leave would have been a planned incident. This was not planned. So that's what I have on that one. And
You want to see another document or stop sharing this?
Yes, I'm finished with that one. And as for the recording, since Ms. Greathouse has mentioned a lot of facts, we might need to play that whole thing so we can hear it. I believe it's 26 minutes.
I don't know why we're going to listen to 26 minutes. You should know what's in it. I would assume you reviewed it, and she only asked you what you believed was on it. Don't you know what's on it? I mean, didn't you listen to it? Huh?
I have listened to it, but not recently. I haven't.
I would think you, in anticipation of this hearing, you would have prepared by listening to this recording. You're the one who made it.
Right. I assumed it would be played in the hearing. And
so
I just kind of
why would we play it if we don't need to? It's 26 minutes long. That's a lot of time.
Okay. I mean, that was just my thinking. So I didn't, I'm sorry. I'm taking too much.
If you're going to insist that you want to listen to it, I'll do it. But I just am very surprised that you have not listened to it in preparation for this hearing and that you don't know what's on it.
Well, I didn't say I don't know what's on it.
Well, then why are we listening to it? It's in the record. I admit it in the record, and I will listen to it as part of the hearing testimony. And you will certainly be able to make arguments about it in your post-hearing briefs. So that is not the issue. If you have real questions, I'm going to listen to this document. Okay. And you I'm not sure. Why is it that you want to listen to it?
Okay, all right. Well, I thought it would be necessary so that we could all hear it at the same time, but I guess that's not necessary. So
Well,
I'm,
it
I'm
doesn't
okay. I
change
mean,
by me hearing it by myself, does it? And
well,
then you can
I'm not
tell
available.
me in any
I'm,
arguments after the hearing, in any written arguments, you would be able to point out things that are on the recording and tell me what things that you want to make sure I pay attention to when I'm listening to it because you
okay.
believe these make certain points for you.
I I was not aware of that I had that option. Thanks for sharing that.
Well, there's Miss Greathouse that talked about briefing. I always allow parties to brief. She had already said she wants to brief, and when she briefs, you get to brief. Both parties get to brief. If you don't want, neither party wants to brief, I don't make people brief. But
Okay,
if
and
you
so
both want to brief, then you can brief after the hearing, but you can only brief on the things that actually happened in the hearing. So if the document hadn't come in, the recording hadn't come in as an exhibit, I wouldn't allow you to write about it in your briefs. But you asked for it to be admitted, and it was admitted.
okay, all right. I didn't have that understanding. Thank you for that. So no,
Okay.
it won't be necessary to play that.
All right. So then let's move on. What else do you need to talk about on your redirect?
I'm just looking back through some of the submitted exhibits, trying to see if there's anything I missed or need to
All
read.
right.
No, I mean, that's it. I mean, and now have an understanding of the after briefing, I'm fine.
Okay, so to be clear, briefing only allows you to talk about the testimony and the exhibits that have been admitted. So if a
Okay.
document wasn't admitted, or you didn't say it, or some other witness who's testifying doesn't say it, then it's not in the record. So you can't, after the
Okay.
hearing's closed, tell me, and I didn't tell you this, or so and so didn't talk about this, but this is something I want you to listen to. That's not happening. It's
Okay, that's
only
clear.
about what's actually in the record. Okay?
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
All right. So I take it since you have, that was limited, do you have any redirect on that? Or recross, I mean, Miss Greathouse on that limited?
No, not at all, Your Honor.
Okay. So there's no recross. That means the complainant is completed with this testimony. And you had witnesses. So who were you planning to call?
I was calling Armando Gutierrez first.
Okay. And do you have him ready to go, or do we need to take a break?
I got it. I got it. He's on standby. I got to let him know.
Is this going to take a little time? So maybe we take a break and everybody can run to the restroom or something?
Yeah, that's probably a good idea.
Okay, why don't we do that? 10 minutes, so it's 1:30 now, 1:40 back. All
Sure.
right? All right, thanks.
Yeah.
And we'll get off. All right. All right, we are in the record and everybody, so you can see, do you see up in the right-hand corner, there's a little orange dot. That means we're recording. If at any time in the future, we're supposed to be recording, you don't see that dot, please let me know. Just for the record and cleaning things up is we did a whole examination of Mr. Armando Gutierrez, and when it was done, I believe that determined we had not recorded it. So Mr. Gutierrez is waiting, and we're going to do that again. And before we start that, Ms. Greathouse had some issues she wanted to discuss. So Mr. Armando is waiting in the lobby. Go ahead.
Yeah, just some concerns. Of course, it's very hard to remake the same testimony again. I know we're in a situation where this is probably the best thing. I don't know if summary of the testimony would help. I know one time that's what was done. But I do have concerns if testimony start changing, different questions start changing too. That's always a concern. It's almost as if and although that can be beneficial for me, but it can also be prejudicial to the respondent, another kick at the cat on different things. So that's my biggest concern. I just want to I know this is probably the best way. I can't think of a different way, but I do have a great concern of same questions not being asked. Even on my part, I don't write down questions. I do them as I go. And same responses coming back out. I don't know if we're going to capture those same responses and questions.
Right, and that is a problem. We've had this same issue occur when we have hearings in person and somebody forgets to turn on the recording. So this isn't a new situation that we've never addressed. And usually one of the things we do is kind of, at least I will go over my notes for questions that I asked so that we don't have to take a lot of time with that. To the extent that you have notes and you want to, use those notes to confirm, as far as I'm concerned, unless Mr. Millet has a problem, if you, like Ms. Gutierrez or Ms. Greathouse or Mr. Millet says, well, when we talked previously, I asked you this and this was your answer, then we can just do it that way so we can kind of get it done. And then if you don't agree, if you objected to that wasn't the answer that was given, or he says, no, that wasn't the answer given, then of course we can get his new answer. But that's the best I think we can do to try to correct it. So does that work for you, Ms. Greathouse?
I know we have, this one is a hard one. We have no choice, and it does happen in person as well. That's why sometimes we have court reporters just in case with those recordings, because it happens not quite a bit, but it does happen. So I guess this is the best way. We can do it. If there's something that's different testimony and I will ask Mr. Millet to do it as well, if you're okay. If it's different testimony being said, I hope it's noted that it's different testimony than the first testimony that came out.
Okay, Mr. Millet?
I too did not write down the questions, and we'll do our best to get the same responses the best we can. So that's all we can do.
Yep.
All right. So on my part, there was I felt a lot of the information that was put in was not necessarily pertinent to the issues in this case. So I'm not as concerned as you are about it, because I did not feel a lot of the things that we went into were really that helpful. So, I certainly don't want to exclude his testimony, and I certainly want to give you the opportunity to put that back on. But again, because you both strayed very far from the issues that I'm dealing with, I don't see necessarily that Mr. Gutierrez's testimony is that vital if we don't get every ounce of some of that information back into the record. But that's up to you. You can do the best you can, and I certainly will be willing to go over my notes and ask questions to the extent that I can from the notes that I've written. All right?
Thank you.
Okay, so let's have him back in, please. All right, Mr. Armando. And I'm going to swear you in again, since apparently it wasn't on the record the last time. All right? Okay. Raise your right hand. Do you swear the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? I didn't hear you. Are you?
I do.
Okay. I do. Okay, good. All right, so you're Armando Gutierrez, correct?
That is correct.
And I didn't actually have you spell your name for the record last time, so could you spell it, please?
Armando. Gutierrez, Gutierrez.
Okay, so one second. Mr. Millet, can you mute yourself because your computer is making lots of noise? Thank you. All right, so as I have for my notes, I'm just going to try to get through some of this with looking at my notes so that we can get done faster, hopefully. But certainly the parties are going to be able to ask you questions again, and if they think there's any different answers, they might ask you again. So you worked at the respondent from 1998 to 2018 and held the position of executive director. Is that correct?
Yes.
And you left your position, at least the last day you were paid was November 30th, 2018?
Yes.
But you actually stopped working on November 16th, 2018? That was your last day of work?
Yes.
And then you were paid just for the rest of the month of November, correct?
That's correct.
And you were working with Miss, let's see, what's her name? I don't remember. What was your replacement's name?
McNeil, Judge.
What's her first name?
Latanya McNeil.
Okay, so Miss Latanya McNeil was hired to take over your position after you retired, correct?
Yes.
And you were working with her. She started October 1st, 2018, and you were working with her to try to train her before you left your employment, correct?
Yes.
And you tried to do that, but you were not able to do that very successfully because she wanted you to write everything down for her. You didn't want to write everything down. You wanted her to see how you did things and to actually do it and to learn that way. And you had a clash of interests about how that should be done, correct?
That's correct.
And this continued, and eventually Ms. McNeil went to the board of directors of Friends of Housing and told them that she felt that you were impeding her ability to learn, and it was worse to have you than for you to leave, and that is why you had a lunch with Mr. Feaster, and I can't believe who was the other board member?
Chris Galler.
What was his last name?
Christopher Galler. Goller.
C-O.
G as in George. Oller.
Okay, and they met with you on the 16th of November at lunch and basically told you that they did not want you to continue to be present in the building because Miss McNeil felt that you were impeding her ability to take over and learn, correct?
That's only partially correct.
Okay, then go ahead and tell me the rest.
The other portion was that staff were having a problem between who they should go to with issues, whether it would be her or me.
Okay, and you said that people did come to you and ask for advice about how to handle things, and to the extent you thought it was okay, you would let them give you your opinion, but you would also direct certain types of inquiries from staff to Miss McNeil since she was in charge, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and then you started in October of 2018, or that's when she started, and you worked with her through all of that month of October, and then in the first week of November, you took a vacation, correct?
Yes.
Okay. When you came back from your vacation, you found that she had locked all the doors of your office, her office, and the office of the deputy executive director, your underling, Miss Anicia Robertson. Is that correct?
Yes, she installed locks. There were never locks there.
Okay. And including then when you saw your office, she had moved your furniture without asking you, including putting a piece of furniture in front of the window, correct?
That's right.
Okay. So then let's see. You you told me some of your job duties, which were numerous. So I don't know if I want to try to elaborate on those. Why don't you tell me what your job duties are so I don't mistake that?
Well, I was in charge of the entire organization, the day-to-day management of it. I hired all staff with the exception of Latanya and Alicia Robertson. Those two were hired when we interviewed with the board for those positions. I disciplined everybody. I did evaluations for all the management staff, some of the office staff that worked with me, and did all the financial reports to the customers and just day-to-day operations. I also managed some properties too, and because we had a couple properties on the south side where there were a lot of Spanish speaking residents, so I dealt with those on a daily basis.
Okay. And you primarily provided services to the Housing Authority, which was a government agency, is that correct?
Yes, and other entities.
Okay. And what was the nature of those services that the respondent provided to those those housing agencies and properties?
Property management. We did a lot of tax credit deals, which we became very good at. So that's why companies utilized us to provide the services and certify residents for living in these properties.
So these were a lot of low-income properties where people had to qualify by their income to live there?
Yes.
Okay.
But we also had middle-income families and upper-income families.
All right. So you said you knew Mr. McNeil because you hired him for the position of,
Millet.
what was the position you hired him for?
Millet.
I'm sorry, Miss Millet. Sorry, thank you.
Maintenance supervisor.
Maintenance supervisor. And you said that Mr. Millet was not a friend of yours and he has never been a friend of yours, correct?
That's correct.
He is a person you know from work and who you hired and you have a good opinion of from his work, correct?
Right. We don't associate socially at all.
Okay, so you hired him in 2011 and he continued to work for you as the property manager. Is that what you called the title again?
Maintenance supervisor.
Maintenance supervisor until you left your employment, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So after you left your employment, you did give a reference for Mr. Millet to work for, I believe, MATC. Is that correct?
He just asked me for a general letter of reference.
Okay. And so that letter, you didn't give for a particular person, but you were willing to have him use it to get new employment, and it was generally a good reference, correct?
Yes. And I've done that for several employees.
And that was based just on your working with him over the years from 2011 until you left in 2018.
That is correct.
Okay. So let's see. Okay, so I believe there was questions about when Mr. Millet left his employment or he was separated from employment with the respondent, that he had called you and talked to you about him leaving his employment with Friends of Housing. Is that correct?
I believe it was the same day he told me they had just gotten fired.
Okay, and at that time he told you what?
Well, he said he got called in by Latanya and Margaret was there, and they went over somewhat of his performance and their dissatisfaction with him. And he told me he recorded the conversation and he sent it to me. I asked him to send it to me, and I'd look at it or listen to it and give him some feedback.
And so you did provide him with feedback on what you thought of the termination, correct?
Yes.
And I believe in your prior testimony, you stated that when you talked to Mr. Millet about his termination at that time, he did not tell you anything about sexual harassment or being retaliated against for sexual harassment. Is that correct?
No, but as I'm thinking about it, I think there may have been something in that exit interview that he had that he brought that up. I think I may have seen that. Since I can't look at my notes, I can't say for sure.
So you think it was in the recording, maybe?
It may have been, yes.
Okay, so that's something you did not say in the last time that you testified when I failed to turn on the recording, correct?
Yes, it is
Okay,
on
so
now.
but you're not sure, you just think that might be in there.
It might be in there.
Okay, but as far as you know, when you actually talked to Mr. Millet, he never said that.
Right.
Okay.
That is correct.
All right, so let me think. So you said that Mr. Millet supervised 16 to 17 maintenance employees, is that correct?
Yes.
And there were 2,200 units that he was responsible for maintaining?
Yes.
And so he managed that staff, and one of the things that was important to you is that everything be done properly. And so you also felt that the parties your workers should be properly compensated. So you had no problem with them working overtime and basically sold that as um, something that they should look forward to as part of their compensation, that they didn't get paid a very good base salary, but they would get that overtime. Is that what you said?
Well, they did get paid a good salary. It was $18.65 an hour to start, and plus the overtime with a
But you
minimum.
thought that that was something you wanted to sell to them when they were being hired.
Right. I always brought that up to their attention as I was doing the final interview.
Okay. And I believe there was a lot of discussion about whether or not you were ever told or were aware that there was any instructions by the board or by somebody named Greg Anderson from the Housing Authority to limit overtime. Do you remember there was testimony about that? A
Yes, I do,
questioning
and
about that?
that was never brought up to me in all the years that we
Okay,
met, that I was.
so you never heard about it from the board and you never heard about it from Mr. Anderson?
That's correct. I never did.
Okay. So Mr. Millet, during his employment with the Board of Friends of Housing, when he was also working with Miss McNeil, he had a lot of complaints about her, correct?
Yes.
And he brought those complaints to you, correct?
Yes, he did. He brought
And go ahead.
some of them. I don't know that he brought all of it to me.
Right. So, but we did talk about that when you were testifying before, and I believe you told us that you're pretty sure that he didn't tell you anything about sexual harassment complaints about her, that she was sexually harassing him during his employment. Is that correct?
I don't recall him ever bringing that to my attention while I was still there.
And I believe your testimony before was that you think you would remember that because of the nature of that type of complaint.
Yes, I would.
So you're fairly certain that he did not bring up that issue to you.
I'm fairly certain of that, yes.
Okay. All right. Let me think. So you were involved in hiring Miss McNeil, is that correct?
Oh, I sat on the interview with the board.
Right. And after she started working, you had a lot of concerns about her ability to do the job, is that correct?
Yes,
And you had put together a bunch of notes about her inability to do the job, correct?
yes.
And you were actually planning to tell Mr. Uh, Feaster, and I can't remember the other person's name,
Mr. Goller?
Mr. Goller, when you had that lunch with them on November 16th, you thought that would be a good opportunity for you to tell them about your concerns about Miss McNeil, is that correct?
Yes.
But you never told them, correct?
No, because that time, the whole purpose of the meeting was to tell me that they thought it would be best if I left right away.
Okay. And so at that point, you decided you weren't going to tell them your concerns about her.
Yes, and I do recall one other thing at meeting that I had, or that luncheon I had with him, if you would let me
Go ahead.
state it. I told her that I told them that I thought she would not last 6 months in that position. And Chris Collar said, well, we'll see how it goes.
Okay.
And that was the last thing we discussed, and I left.
All right. Let me see.